Thank you for the very kind introduction, Tommy. I can guarantee you that our Rook 1 camp looks absolutely nothing like the photo. It's got about 2-3 feet of snow in it. But it's my pleasure to present to you NexGen and some related materials. So let's talk about uranium first. I mean, it's all in the facts here. We've got 70 reactors currently under construction. China's really ramping up, and it's going to mean upwards to meet their nuclear plants have to be about 1,000 in order to meet their gigawatts output by 2012, 2020, and 2013. Also on the horizon, Japan is starting to get approval for their reactors. They have approval for 2. I believe there's another 4 that are very close to getting approval, and then there's 20 out of 48 up for review. I don't know if you've been following in the media, but big events with Olympic Dam and Rossing. There's been some technical issues at those mines, which is going to take about 8 million pounds of supply off of the 2015 supply amount. So at NexGen, our whole strategy is to get shallow, high-grade targets along the edge of the basin. You can see the rim of the Athabasca Basin's the brown squiggly line. We're concentrated with most of our properties in the southwest Athabasca. Now, not a lot of work is being done on that side of the basin. You can see over on the east side of the basin, that's where a lot of the mines or the depleted mines have come from. And I mean, the first was in 1968. It was Eagle Point, and that's really drew a lot of attention to that part of the basin. Now, all the shallow and high-grade uranium deposits on the east side of the basin have been mined out, and that's because the economics were there. And now what's starting to happen over at our Rook 1 property on the southwest side of the basin is there's been new discoveries of high-grade uranium at shallow depths. Here's a zoom in on our Rook 1 property. You can see the numerous conductor corridors. Now, these are the frameworks for which mineralization is located on. A lot of the attention has been on the Patterson Lake corridor. Fission has come up with a resource of 105 million pounds indicated and inferred. It's located about 7 kilometers to the southwest of NexGen's Arrow Zone. And then also there's more mineralization to the northeast. Pure Point has the Spitfire Zone. It's nothing too significant, but it's actually located 40 meters from our property boundaries. So the entire corridor has got all sorts of smoke, but most importantly, it's got fire. Not to mention the other conductor corridors that go over to the east. You've got the Dirksen corridor, where had the best drill hole up until 2012 when PLS was discovered. And that best drill hole was about 2.5 meters of 0.2%. And the further you go east on NexGen's Rook 1 property, the less exploration there's been done. It's completely underexplored, and to be honest, our technical crew is having a lot of fun going through it very methodically and exploring it to the best of our abilities. Here's a zoom in on the Arrow Zone. This was discovered in February of 2014. You can see the mineralized envelopes are the red. It's a series of subvertical stacked shear zones. They've been proved up by 37 of 39 drill holes hitting high-grade uranium mineralization. 90% of our holes are angled because the mineralization is subvertical. The area of mineralization, it's 515 meters long, strike length, 215 meters wide. The depth goes from 100 meters down to 820 meters, and it's really proving up to be something quite significant. I mean, Hathor had a strike length of 300 meters, and they came up with a resource of 57 million pounds. We're on track right now for something that's quite significant, and I can't give you a number, but I mean, Eagle Point is a good analogy to what Arrow is, and that's had in excess of 100 million pounds. Now, recently, we've reported extension of high grade in our A2 shear. That's the top, the northernmost yellow box there. We've extended out a high grade core zone of 81 meters to the southwest from a previous strike length of 15 meters. And it's got a vertical extent in that one shear of 300 meters, and it's about 15 to 25 meters wide. So the dimensions of this kind of a high-grade zone, I mean, it really adds up pounds very, very quickly. Also, earlier this week on Tuesday, February 24th, we released drill hole AR39. It hit a brand new high-grade zone within our A3 shear. You can see the larger yellow rectangular box. It had 9 3/4 meter of off scale. Some of it, and that's off scale on 2 different kinds of scintillometers. When we see off scale over 61,000, we're generally talking about grades that are 40% or higher U3O8. So these are 2 shear zones that we're really focused on in building pounds, hopefully to get a resource out by the end of the year. Now here's a cross section of looking to the northeast within Arrow. You can see vertical hole AR30. It's one of the best drill holes ever drilled in the Athabasca Basin with a grade thickness of 909. It has some amazing intercepts of 63.5 meters of 7.5%. And I mean, up at the top, it had 92 meters of 0.5. We kind of ignored that, but really on a global scale, where the average is 0.07, that knocks it out of the park alone. And I go back to the Eagle Point analogy. Now, this is a mine that's being operated by Cameco right now. They're producing, and it's a cash cow for them. They're down at the 450 meter level, mining material that's 0.57%. It's long hole stoping, conventional mining within competent rock. It's exactly how Arrow's situated. It's much more straightforward. There's no freezing, there's no unconformity, no wet sand to deal with in that sense. And the Eagle Point deposit or mine is part of a larger camp that includes Collins Bay and also Rabbit Lake, which is over 200 million pounds that's come out of that region. And what's great is that when you go further into the basin from Arrow, we have a 4-kilometer strike length that has not been tested. And we'll be doing that this winter. And there's radon, which is a gas that comes off uranium. We've got radon anomalies along that trend, indicating there is good prospectivity for more uranium deposits to the northeast into the basin. And the reason why this is a good analogy in terms of Eagle Point is because when you go 5 kilometers along trend into the basin from Eagle Point, you have the series of Collins Bay deposits. Here's a great comparison of some of the alteration that we're seeing at Arrow with the freak of nature type deposits, McArthur. As you can see, this is a dravite breccia. It's from hydraulic fracturing fluids going up a shear zone, and then it's got so much pressure it actually brittle fractures the rock. And boron is the main kind of ingredient in dravite. It's associated with uranium, but more importantly, it's associated with McArthur. And the alteration styles are very similar, speaks volumes about the strength of the mineralizing event that occurred at Arrow. So along strike potential from the Arrow, as you can see to the northeast, all those dots along trend from Arrow, those are conductor picks. Those are the graphitic fault zones, which are the framework for the high-grade uranium. You can see arrows associated with a disruption in the EM conductor, and this same disruption, which caused by a northerly cross-cutting structure, also happens 3 more times to the northeast. Now, these are great places to be exploring, especially when they're associated with a radon anomaly. And radon anomalies were a big part of how we found Patterson Lake South, how the discoveries of the 390 and the 780 East Zone were made on a one-hole hit. So here's the radon anomaly right here, 400 meters to the northeast of Arrow. We've got quite a large anomaly. It's much bigger than anything that I saw at Patterson Lake. 480 meters long, up to 150 meters wide. Values up to 10.4. Peak curries, I'll just tell you that's strong. Here's our quick share structure. We've got 14 million in cash, and we're fully funded to the end of the year. And our ownership is Tigers Realm, Mega, Uranium. We've got some big holders. And just the summary, if you can take anything home, we've got 37 out of 39 holes hitting mineralization. The dimensions on this deposit, they're a lot different than next door, but they're extensive with a strike of 515, width of 215, depth extent It's over 720 meters. We've got 2 high-grade shear cores that we're following up on, and then we're about one-third the way through our drill program, and hopefully we can find some more zones.
Good job. Thanks, Garrett.
Thank you.